how do you think people felt when Obama was named as the first black president?
I think people were generally really excited. I mean, this was something that only ever happened in Hollywood films over the years, where you knew it was a future if there was a black president, and then it happened in our lifetime. And this is a country which the legacy of slavery and into the 1960s repression of African Americans in terms of lack of voting rights and obviously still strong racial issues today. And yet this was a country often seen by many as a beacon of democracy that was able to set aside to a certain extent this prejudice and see a candidate not, again, by the sort of the content of his character and not by the color of his skin, and able to vote him in, not once, but obviously vote him in a second time as well.
Do you think he actually achieved what he set out to do?
I would say no. I think his legacy is a mixed one. And again, whoever's in office is going to have critics. I mean, look historically, any of the great presidents at the time were criticized. So he came in, with a sense of healing the so-called racial divide, and I think in some ways he's more of a transitional figure in that he is a sign of the fact the United States is increasingly multicultural, multiracial society. And there is resistance to what he represents, and you could see it when he was president with these allegations that he wasn't actually American, that he was secretly born in Kenya, and then somehow managed to get an American birth certificate, and the so-called birther movement, which Donald Trump did a lot to foster that as well. So he came in with that big goal, which by definition was not going to be attainable because it was too big a change. But he had smaller goals as well. I mean, improving the situation of healthcare in the United States. And I think that will be his ultimate domestic legacy, so-called Obamacare. Something like 25 million Americans now have health insurance who didn't have health insurance before Obama came in. Now that program is under attack, and Trump said he will repeal it and all of that. But I think domestically, there are millions of Americans who have benefited from Obama being president. And if you remember going back to 2008, when he's coming in, there's the biggest economic downturn since the Great Depression. It looked like the U.S. auto industry, General Motors was going to go bankrupt, and the Obama administration didn't allow that to happen. And now the economy is completely turned around. So he came in being dealt a very poor hand in poker terms. And so I think his domestic legacy is reasonably strong. Arguably, his foreign policy is open to a lot of criticism, that he failed around Syria, that he should have been more interventionist, but then the counter-argument is he was too interventionist in Libya, which is a mess. Obama was kind of a blank slate that many people invested in as to what he would be, and he's in reality more of a pragmatist than anything else.
Do you think he'll always be sort of seen as a figure of hope, though?
He is obviously an inspirational figure. I mean, he is a very charismatic individual, is a very charismatic speaker, and he is this figure of hope. I mean, certainly for anyone who is from a mixed race background or who is non-white in the United States, this is a sign that literally anyone can be president of the United States. And I remember being in Britain in 2008 and doing sort of these kinds of interviews where someone said, do you think the United States is ready to elect a black man as president? And I said, well, do you think Britain is ready to have a black man or a black woman as prime minister? And the United States in some ways is far ahead of Europe, or far ahead of, I'm actually Canadian, far ahead of Canada in terms of where it's gone in having a leader who actually reflects the changing nature of the population.
And how do you feel about the current candidates?
Well, in some ways they're a throwback. I mean, I think in some ways Trump is the anti-Obama, and Trump and the people that are supporting him, especially, disproportionately white, older white males, in some ways this is a crying out against Obama's America, against a multicultural, multiracial, multi-faith America, that they want, in a sense, to turn the clock back. I mean, there was a really interesting take on, Trump's key slogan is "Make America Great Again," and that the key word is again. that he's playing upon nostalgia for some remembered past when was America great? Was it in the 1960s when you had African Americans being attacked with police dogs because they wanted the right to vote, and earlier when African Americans would be lynched? So when was this remembered great period of time that he's tapping upon? But there is this nostalgia for an America where it was white and it was white dominated, and Obama has really challenged that, and a lot of people are angry about that, and so Trump is this cipher for that anger and of trying to turn the clock back. Now the question is whether there's enough people that feel that way to do that. As for Clinton, I mean, again, Clinton in a sense, again, is because of her previous connection to the White House. There's this sense of America being kind of stuck in this rut, because the 1990s was a very divided period where, again, there was parallel to Obama. There were a lot of challenges to the Clintons, their legitimacy, suggestions that they were corrupt, even that they murdered people. I mean, sort of far-right conspiracy theories. Differences now, you've got the internet to foster these as well. So it's turning the clock back in both respects, these candidates.
Who do you think is going to win?
I've got money bet on Clinton, so I'm hoping Clinton will win. But I think we should be prepared for Trump winning as well. I mean, I think there is a strong parallel with the whole Brexit debate, where even though the polls were much closer with Brexit, people were still surprised that it ended up being a vote to leave.